The Carolina Panthers take another L in week 6 against Atlanta. Now they move down to 1-5, still remaining in last place in the NFC South. The question is, do we continue Dalton moving forward, or do they start to slowly bring Bryce Young back into the mix? And what are the expectations going into week 7 against the Washington Commanders? And also, we'll cover some Hornets content. We got 2 more preseason games, one actually currently as we speak against the New York Knicks, and one final one Thursday against the Indiana Pacers. And this time next week, we will be discussing the actual season, as opening night for us is October 23rd versus the Rockets. Ian, you ready to get this thing going, man?
I'm ready, man. Let's go.
All right, let's do it.
Touchdown, Carolina! You're listening to the Buzz Pound.
Smith scores, and the Carolina Panthers win in overtime.
A Queen City sports podcast covering your Charlotte Hornets and Carolina Panthers.
Halliburton, nowhere to go! LaMelo's done it! LaMelo's done it! Hornets win! Here comes LaMelo.
Here are your hosts, Ian Blair and Cam Gardner.
Well, Ian, it is another L story this week against Atlanta. What were your thoughts on that game overall? I didn't get to see a bit of it, but, obviously we took another L. We hung in there a little better than I personally expected. I thought sure it was going to be a major blowout, but we hung in there decently from what I saw.
Yeah, I mean, obviously it's the same thing, different week at this point. I think I said that last week too. So, we put up 20 points. We lost, 38-20 against the Falcons. And I think we put up more points than I thought we were going to, especially after last week against Chicago. I mean, obviously, Xavier Legette had that big touchdown, looked pretty good. And Andy Dalton on that first drive looked really good. I thought it's just the defense, ultimately giving up 38 points. Really, we couldn't stop the rushing attack from Atlanta, obviously. Them having 2 good running backs in both Bijan Robinson and Tyler Algier just kind of hurt us. Kirk didn't do much against us. He only had 225 passing yards. So, of course, last week against Tampa Bay, he had like 500. So that was nice to see. They only threw the ball 30 times, which he completed 19 of those passes. But, another loss. And it's just our season's going downhill, faster than we would hope. And on to Washington next week. And obviously, Washington has another great rookie quarterback in Jaden Daniels, and he's just lighting it up. So just one of those other things frustrating to see, frustrating. It's good for the kid. I would never wish ill will towards any quarterback in the league, but it's just frustrating to see, especially after trading up for Bryce and seeing Jaden Daniels in his rookie year tear up the league the way he is and playing so well. It's just, frustrating, but hopefully he can continue that. I'm a big Jaden Daniels fan, so hopefully next week we could somehow look decent. There's questions on if we go back to Bryce, if we don't, I kind of want to know your thoughts on that as we go into the next segment. But what was your kind of opinion on the Panthers versus Falcons game?
I mean, like you said, they hung in there better than I thought. I had originally last episode, I'm sure you remember, I said I didn't think we were going to put up a touchdown. If somebody did, I thought sure it would be Chuba Hubbard, just because he's been the only real solid piece that you can guarantee on just about every game we've had so far.
Mm-hmm. And he still looks good. Good.
Oh, yeah, he's definitely balling out. I'll go over a little bit of stats here. Andy Dalton, 26 completed passes out of 38 attempts, 20 or 21 yards, 2 touchdowns, 2 interceptions, which costed us the game, obviously, because those could have been drives where we could have kept the game a little closer compared to what the end result was in 38-20 loss. On the rushing side, Chuba Hubbard, 18 carries, 92 yards. Dalton was actually the rushing too a little bit, 3 carries, 21 yards. On the receiving side of things, we had 2 receivers, 2 touchdowns, which was Deontay Johnson, 6 receptions, 78 yards, 1 touchdown, and Xavier Legette, like you mentioned earlier, 3 receptions, 23 yards, 1 touchdown. And if I'm not mistaken, he rode Dollar once again with that touchdown. So that's never going to get old for us, honestly. I love it. Love the energy. Glad he's staying in good spirits, for the meantime, because we need somebody needs to have that energy around there with where our season is gone. Jatavion Sanders, he was up there as well in the receiving, 5 receptions, 49 yards. Jalen Coker, 3 receptions, 30 yards. On a little bit of defense, Troy Hill, 8 tackles, 1 assisted. Xavier Woods, 7 tackles and 2 assists. So obviously not a great game for Andy Dalton. It was better compared to that last game against Chicago. I mean, that game just overall was not pretty for any of us. On the offense, rushing, passing, receiving, whatever, especially defense, they got tore up. And honestly, still in the same boat. I mean, we lost our major pieces early in the season. Derek Brown and Shaq Thompson both. I mean, those are our veterans who lead our defense. So, I mean, not really sure how much more we can advance there. The only thing we can really count on at this point is the offense, which is rare because the last few seasons, defense was who carried our team. Some of those games we've had previously, the defense won the game for us. So, I mean, you can't be happy about a loss, obviously, but I was happy to see that they were able to keep up just a bit. Like you said, the first drive, after going back and looking at some highlights of that game, the 2 interceptions, like I said, costed us. They made game out of them, obviously. So, but yeah, just like you said, another week, same thing, different story. We hate to continue bringing misery and such low energy when we talk about the Panthers weekly, but that's just kind of where we are. But with that, like I said earlier, we have moved to 1-5, and we spoke about it briefly, but we want to go into this segment. Ian, do you think they should continue with Dalton the remainder of the season, or should they start to bring Bryce Young back into the mix slowly but surely? Because, I mean, he only won us the 1 game, so some people obviously have the questions, but obviously his stats per game are way better than where Bryce has been throughout the times he played or started. So do you think it's time now that he's sat a little bit, or should we just continue letting the vet give it what he's got?
So, I mean, I've went back and forth on this, but we're sitting here, after 6 weeks and we're 1-5. At what point do we just, rip the Band-Aid off and say, Bryce, go out there? One of 2 things is going to happen is either he's not going to look good and we're going to say, okay, this guy's not our franchise option, or he could show much improvement from earlier in the year. I think part of me is just wanting him hidden on the bench because I don't want to know one way or another. My heart just tugs at because I think I know, I think it's leaning towards him not being our franchise guy, especially after you see in the rookies around the league. Obviously, Caleb Williams throwing 4 touchdowns this past week. Jaden Daniels continues to play well. Drake May looked fairly well for the Patriots. That team's not very talented at all. The Patriots do not have a very good roster, and Drake May still threw 3 touchdowns despite the loss, threw some interceptions. But
I'm going to stop you there real quick. You just mentioned Drake May. I'm going to just say real quick, go Heels. Continue.
Yeah. I mean, he looked pretty good. Obviously the offensive line didn't protect him very well against the Texans. And as I mentioned, the Patriots roster is just not very good. And there were still bright spots out of his first start. I would go on to say that the Panthers roster is comparable to the Patriots, and in Bryce's starts, there was no redeemable qualities out of both those starts. He looked, for lack of a better term, horrible in those starts. That being said, I think, if I put myself in the mind of Canales as a head coach, I think I would probably just rip the Band-Aid off and throw Bryce out there. One way or another, we need to know. They need to know if he's the guy, because it's looking like we're going to be moving towards a top 5 pick, and you need to start evaluating, these guys that are coming out this next year, the quarterbacks that are coming out, the defensive players that are coming out. You need to start evaluating these guys and evaluating our needs for next year in order to compete. So I'm under the impression that you just need to, 1-5. Andy's looking decent, but we're not winning games. You need to get a ton of Bryce Young on film, good or bad, because we did give up so many assets to get him, and we need to see him play. And if he's not good, at the end of the year, there's some decisions to be made, but you at least need to know for sure.
No, I agree. And kind of like you mentioned earlier, just in the mindset of Canales, if you think about it, he came into this situation with a second-year, rookie. Obviously, it wasn't his pick, so it was something he had to learn altogether. And personally, if he was our coach last year, talking about Canales, I really don't know if he would have picked Young, honestly, as that draft choice, just knowing how Canales is. And I know he's known for developing quarterbacks, but so far this season, he just seemed, I'm not sure what it is. But like you said, we need to see more of Young. They need to see more of it, especially, like you said, to know if that really is who we are going to go with moving forward. I mean, between us and the Jags, it looks like we are competing for that number 1 spot in the draft, honestly.
Yeah.
Both of us are 1-5 currently. So, I mean, you may have to start looking at other quarterbacks that are coming out. We hate to be at that, square one there again, but that's just kind of where we are. I mean, so far, it just doesn't look like it's, panning out very well.
Yeah, no, I agree. I mean, it's frustrating. It's more than frustrating, just another season as a Panthers fan. It's quite demoralizing, hopefully, better times are always to come. You're not going to be 1-5 every year. We won 2 games last year, hopefully better times are to come. It's not always going to be like this, but
Well, that's kind of how the NFL is set up, or just, sports in general. I mean, the teams that are at the bottom of the barrel, because of that, gives them opportunity to revamp a
mhm.
little bit. So hopefully, we thought it was it last year, but it looks like we might have to start there again, depending on how all else goes the rest of the season. 'Cause there's still a bit of season left. So, but on to Washington, week 7, this upcoming Sunday. What are some predictions and expectations there? Like I said, we got a opponent who's a rookie that is balling out, having a very standout season so far. I'm gonna go over some of his stats real quick over his past 3 games. So against the Ravens, they lost that game, but it was still a great battle between Daniels and Lamar Jackson. So he had 24 completed passes out of 35 attempts, 269 yards, 2 touchdowns. Against the Browns, they won that game. 14 completed passes, 25 attempts, 238 yards, 1 touchdown. And against the Cardinals, which I'm not mistaken, that was like a blowout game. That was a few weeks ago. 26 completed passes, 30 attempts, 233 yards, 1 touchdown. These are the type of numbers that we were hoping for Bryce,
Yeah.
honestly.
Cam, you're also forgetting to mention, Jaden's rushing stats
Well,
because
yeah.
he's the definition of a dual threat quarterback. I mean, he looks great in the pocket. He's running the ball kind of like a little mini Lamar out there. I'm a huge Lamar Jackson fan. I've always been a Lamar Jackson truther. He's going to be the greatest dual threat quarterback in NFL history. Hot take.
I agree
He's gonna
completely.
by the end of his career, he's gonna be the best dual threat quarterback in NFL history. That being said, yeah, Jaden, he looks great. He really does. It's great to see. It's great to see these young guys come in the league and tear it up. It's great for just to watch. It's good for fantasy football. It's just fun. It's nice to see. But that being said, I don't have many expectations for this Panthers team for the remainder of the year. I would like, maybe to see some guys perform well, obviously. It's interesting to mention too that Washington has 2 former Panthers on defense that are at least, contributing in Jeremy Chin and Frankie Louvu, who I don't know why we got rid of in the first place. And they're playing well, obviously only lost 2 games on the season. And I would expect them to beat us this week. It's just they're a better team. Dan Quinn in his first year as a head coach, looks really good, has that team really going along very well. But yeah, I mean, it would be, our defense is so down right now. It could be from my point of view right now, I think it's just going to be another great Jaden Daniels game. And if you have him in fantasy, you got to start him this week. I mean, obviously he's a must start every week, but it's just going to be another frustrating week for Panthers fans, in my opinion.
I mean, for the Commanders, the whole situation was just a recipe for success, honestly. I mean, they made the right picks, got a good coach, like you said, Dan Quinn. I mean, it surprised a lot of people, I think. Not many people expected it to go the way it is this year. I mean, a lot of people knew the talent Jane Daniels had, but they didn't know that overall that team would look like this. Not that they're going to win like a championship or anything this
Yeah.
year, but in the near future, if they keep this up, if they keep building talent around there, they could definitely get up there for sure.
Yeah.
I believe that. And like you, I am a Jaden Daniels fan, hands down. I mean, like I love seeing young quarterbacks come in doing well. I mean, he went to a perfect situation for him in his game. I mean,
Mhm.
everything is just transitioning well. So, like I said, it won't be a good turnout for the Panthers, obviously, and it's going to be like that for the remainder of the season because our schedule is not getting any easier by any means. So, some of those games that were must win that we lost, it's a pity that we lost those, but hey, is what it is at this point. Just got to get through the rest of it and just see where we can get to or what we can do during the off season and going into next season.
Yeah. Yeah, for sure. So I got a question for you, Cam. Just came to my head. How surprised would you be if the Panthers won more than 1 game this year? Like win another game throughout the year?
I mean, I wouldn't be surprised if they at least won 2 again because
Yeah, I
I
would agree.
mean, at least just like last year. I mean, they made moves, but obviously it wasn't enough to really move the needle compared to where we were. And just staffing change again. I mean, everything as a whole can play a factor in that, like new head coach, new GM, all that. I mean, it's all that plays a factor. And see, for them, they got into a situation where they literally just chose Bryce Young last year, and neither one of them were in that position last year when they made those decisions. So
Yeah.
it's just one of those things they had to take on. It's unfortunate for them because it makes them being in these positions, those two, in particular, the head coach and the GM, they've had a relationship for a long time. Seems like they work well together. But what they took on here just isn't a recipe for their success currently. But I think Canales could be a good coach. I just don't think this was the best quarterback situation for him. That's why I keep saying I don't even know if he would have chose Bryce Young personally, especially if he had Stroud on the line too. With that first pick, I'm pretty sure if he was that coach, he would have got him. But we'll just have to see there. And I mean, yeah, 2 wins at best. That's what I'm predicting at this point. I don't see anything more than that because, like I said, our schedule is not getting any easier. I mean, we're at week 7. We got the Commanders. We got the Broncos week 8, give or take there. We got the Saints. Rattler looked pretty decent when he started. So I don't see us beating that team there. Got the Giants, another give or take. Week 11 is a bye week. Then we got the Chiefs. That's an automatic loss. I'm not even, it's not even worth having a discussion there. And, we got like the Buccaneers, lost there. Eagles. Depends if you catch them on a bad day or not. I'm not sure what's going on up there.
Yeah.
Cowboys, really can't predict what that may be.
Yeah.
But I feel like that might be one of those games that Dak actually balls out just because they're playing a team like us, like last year.
If Mike McCarthy's still in Dallas and they somehow lose to the Panthers, I promise you that'll probably be the last game Mike McCarthy ever coaches for the Dallas Cowboys.
Oh, 100%.
Because they don't look very well. They don't look very good right now. And they look like a mess.
Yeah, it's definitely nowhere near of a mess as we are, but it's definitely a mess over there. I mean, there is in the right hands, there's so much potential there where it could be better than what they currently are, I feel like, but just the wrong decisions are being made, in my opinion. Let me just say this now, JC, if you're listening, sorry about that. I know you're a diehard Cowboy fan, so we don't mean to knock on your team there. We have no reason to knock on your team. But anyway, after the Cowboys, got the Cardinals, got the Bucks again, and then we end with Atlanta. So again, our schedule is just not getting any easier for us. We don't really have any must-win games coming up. So 2 wins at best is what I'm seeing. Possibility of 3. I'll put that up there.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, I think we sneak another win out somewhere. Denver could be a sneaky game if we can confuse Bo Nix a little bit on defense. He's still young. But yeah, I mean, I don't know. It's just frustrating, man. Another season, another bad season in Carolina for the football team. So it's one of those things that, you can only do so much as a fan. We continue to talk about the losses every week because they come just about every week. So,
but hey, the fandom never ends regardless.
Yeah. Oh yeah. No doubt for sure.
I'll forever say that. It's keep pounding forever.
Yeah.
So switching gears a little bit, we're going to move into some basketball now. We are really close to opening week. Wednesday, October 23rd will be our opening day against the Rockets. And currently, as we're recording this, there is a live preseason game going on against the New York Knicks in New York. We played them. I think it was the first preseason game of the preseason. And currently that score is 30-24. Hornets are up currently. Good to see right there.
So the last game for the Hornets was a big win versus the Grizzlies, 119-94. Obviously, in the third preseason game of the year, Brandon Miller had 22 points, looked really good. Obviously, 8 of 13 shooting, 6 of 8 from downtown, which is really nice to see. My guy, Trey Mann, 19 points off the bench. I mean, continues to look good. And, I'm seeing so much stuff on social media now with him, especially from the Hornets pages, just like having high expectations from him this year. Definitely, coming off the bench, high expectations, gives us that scoring off the bench that we really need, that we haven't had in a long time, and gives us that spark, for those games where we're not clicking early on and you sub a guy in for scoring and, just jump starts the team. I think it's going to be huge for this upcoming year. And, obviously with the regular season coming up, I'm so excited for this team. The vibes are really high in Carolina and Charlotte, especially for the Hornets. Everybody, knock on wood, everybody's healthy. Mark Williams will be coming back soon. Probably, I would assume, within the first couple of weeks of the regular season. But yeah, I mean, I'm excited for this team, man. This is the most excitement I've had for a Hornets team in a long time.
Yeah, man. I mean, it's a revamped team overall. I mean, new coaching staff compared to where we started last season. Pretty much a new team. We got a lot of new bench players and some new starters in the mix. I think Josh Green, he's become a starter at least in preseason. I'm assuming he'll more than likely be a starter in the regular season as well. But in that Memphis game, like you said, man, Miller, they performed pretty well. Bridges, he came off with 11 points, 2 rebounds, 1 assist. Fairly decent. LaMelo did not play that game. Seth Curry, I think he's a solid veteran coming off the bench for us. I mean, he didn't score high that game, 8 points, 2 assists, 3 rebounds, but he's a Curry. They can shoot. It's just in their DNA. So
Yeah.
it just feels good to have a Curry on the team. And obviously it's personal for him being a native, and his pops used to be a Hornet and is one of the commentators for during live games. So it's good to just have that last name and that number 30 there, some way, form, or fashion. But yeah, man. Then they got one more against Indiana. Not sure if Halliburton will be playing in that game or Siakam, but we already know what those two are. They're pretty special players and such. I think it'll probably be just one of those, final preseason games. I'm not sure if the starters will play at that point, but obviously it won't even count against us because it's not the regular season yet. But not even a week later will be our start of the season, which I'm so excited. Love basketball. I love sports in general, but I love watching some good NBA basketball, even college basketball too. But like you said, I mean, it's been a long time since I've been stoked about the Hornet season. And honestly, at least in Charlotte sports, outside of the FC, because they've already clinched the playoffs, which is cool. That should be highlighted a little bit more. But, we hope for the Hornets to have a decent season because the Panthers, it's over at this point. It's not even going to be worth talking about by the time we get to the end of the season. So we have something else to lean on and hope for. If you ask me, I think the Hornets are two different sports, but in a better point compared to where the Panthers are or where they started. At least we know we got decent players and we're already seeing flashes currently. And hopefully we can get Mark Williams out there. I know they say he's officially out of his boot, which is good, his walking boot. That was announced a few days ago, and they're going to reevaluate him before the season starts. So I'm hoping that he can get out there night one. If not, more than likely it'll be Nick Richards out there, who isn't terrible. He just, to me, is not as aggressive as Mark Williams is.
Yeah, for sure. I'm excited. Obviously, I'm excited for the 23rd against the Rockets. I think that should be a W. And then that Friday night, I'll be taking my sister. Shout out my sister, Sophia, if you're listening. Probably not, but I'll be taking her to the game in Atlanta versus Hornets versus the Hawks. And I haven't been to a Hornets game since I've lived in Charlotte, and I was a child pretty much. It's been a long time. So I think the last time I actually went to a Hornets game, there were the Bobcats, if I'm not mistaken. So if that says anything, it's been a long time. So I'm really looking forward to that, hoping for a great season from this team. Obviously, Brandon Miller year 2, expecting a lot out of him. Hopefully LaMelo can stay healthy and we could see, the rest of the team come together and really perform well. Obviously, Charles Lee, I hold him in high regard. I think he's going to be a great coach, especially with the success he's had and the stops he's had. But yeah, I'm really looking forward to the season, have high hopes and high expectations. I don't think we're going to be a top 3 seed or anything, but I think it's going to be my point being is it's going to be a vast improvement from the Hornets basketball we've seen these past couple of years. And I think, by the end of the year, as I mentioned last episode, we will be a play-in team or a playoff team, but
hopefully we can skip that play-in level.
We don't have good history there.
Exactly. That's why I said it. So, but yeah, I mean, the Rockets, they're a young team as well. You got Jalen Green, Dylan Brooks, Jabari Smith Jr., Amin Thompson. So they got a little young talent over there. Just hopefully we can start off the season strong, getting the dub on night one. Give us some good momentum moving forward. Hopefully go to Atlanta, put up a good game. Because I know they got a new situation too without DeJounte Murray anymore. So we just have to see, man. I'm hoping for the best. Hopefully we can start out with 2 wins and you'll be there. So hopefully it'll be worth the trip for you. Because there's nothing like a good old
it'll be worth the trip.
Hornets game. Last time I saw a Hornet game there, they actually won. And they were down really bad at one point, and somehow they came out. Terry Rozier, LaMelo wasn't playing. That's all we had at the time, and he came out and balled out at halftime. So hopefully you get that similar experience of a win in State Farm Arena. So
yeah, I'm excited. Win or loss, it's going to be a fun time, spending time with family. Family time's undefeated, especially when you're going to a sporting event. I know me and you feel the same way about that. You know, there's nothing like good sporting event always brings the vibes up, win or loss. But yeah, hopefully, as I mentioned, you know, we're expecting big things out of this team and hoping for a good season.
Yeah. Now, I do want to jump back to the Panthers for 1 second. Although the season hasn't panned out well, last game wasn't the worst loss we ever had. But let's talk about those uniforms, the blue on blue with the black helmets. Let's just highlight that for a second.
I think that was the best product on the field, honestly. I think that the uniforms were the prettiest things for your eyes, way more prettier than the product on the field because that was just trash. But, you know, those uniforms, man.
Man, I was happy when they did the color rush that first season when they did the blue on blue. And I remember back then I was saying they need to change up the helmets a little bit because all they had was the silver for a long time. And they still don't bring out the black helmets much. But I was so happy to see them with that, you know, that uniform combination. Just couldn't get any better than that. I mean, that was really probably our only major highlight of that. But I liked what I saw with the uniform. So at least we came out with something that we both were or feel the same about in a positive manner when it comes to these Panthers of ours.
I might be in the minority in this, but I think we wear white so much. I think we need to bring out the black jerseys more. You know, I always love the black jerseys and the blue jerseys, even with gray pants like we used to wear. You know, we just wear white jerseys, even at home so much. We just wear our whites all the time.
Growing up, it was always the black, the gray pants, or the white sometimes with the silver helmets. I'm like you. I'm not understanding why we don't wear the black because that used to be like our main known jersey, even more so than the blue. But I want to see those again. It brings back the Steve Smith, you know, Stewart and Williams, all those guys, that whole era. Then when Cam first got there. So just for the nostalgia, since we don't really have anything else we can be happy about in the moment. At least we can look back and remember the good times. Hopefully there'll be some good times to come in the near future. Hopefully.
Yeah, for sure. Buzz Pound, we appreciate y'all joining us for episode 7 of the pod. Obviously, you can always follow us on our social medias at Buzz Pound Pod on both Instagram and X. And you can listen to our podcasts on both Spotify and you can find us on YouTube.
Keep supporting, keep on giving us feedback, you know, help us grow and continue to bring you all some more good content. So until next time, keep pounding in Buzz City.
Right! Thanks for tuning in to this episode of the Buzz Pound. Be sure to subscribe, leave a review, and let us know what you thought of this episode. Until next time, this is the Buzz Pound.
Touchdown!